I am going to invite our moderator, Vanessa, and our panelists, Kisa and Nancy, to join us up here on the stage. I'm going to try to get this camera back on. Done, woman. I think so. Back here. All right.
Oh, there it is. All right. Hey.
Hey.
Well, welcome everyone. Glad you're here. And we want to also welcome the folks who are on virtually. We know that we've acknowledged you before, but we want to welcome you again. And we're going to expect everybody to participate in whatever. I have a question for you, though. I'm sorry. Your last name is not that common. Sorry, everybody. I'm having a personal conversation with Brian.
Yes, Bruner.
Okay, so do you know anybody named Gwendolyn?
Oh.
Come here. Okay, this is
Oh.
I'm not calling her. I don't have her. No. Do this. Now, where's your phone? Okay, take a picture and send it to her.
Well, that's all it takes.
Ryan, I went to elementary school, middle school, junior high school, and high school with your mother.
Awesome.
35th.
35th. Okay.
I thought, Bruner, that's not that common of a name.
That's
Vanessa Haskins was the name. Okay. All right. Sorry about that commercial, everybody. I'm going to set my timer now so that I can get back on track. We get extra minutes. Okay. All right. Here we go. So we are here recognizing Women's History Month, but we are going to talk about Women's HERstory Month. We have stories, we have challenges, we have victories, right? Because that's how we do. We're supposed to have a panel of 3 or 4 people, and we pivot because that's what we do. And we're going to have an enriching conversation with our panelists here. And the first thing, before we ask them to introduce themselves, my name is Vanessa Sims. I work at WSIA. My title today is Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. That's today. All right. Okay. So I've been there 3 years. In my 4th year, I love it. I love what I do. And I do it because I want to make the world better for my grandson and everybody who follows behind me. All right. So before we get going with our panelists, I'd like for you to, can we scan the code and ask people to take the survey? Because we want to know where you are. We want to understand where you as participants, both virtually and in person, what is keeping you up at night, both literally and figuratively? What is keeping you up? What's bugging you? So if you can scan the QR code, answer that question. There's should be a drop-down box in the tool on your phone. So while we're asking you to do that, want to see if the results pop up. They should pop up really quickly. Are the folks virtually able to do that as well?
Sharon, go off mute. Can you do it?
I could if I wasn't driving. So I got into my car, but There was a
Okay.
different game pin. I'm trying it now.
All right. Technology, we love it, right? We need it. So while we're waiting on the results to come up, we're going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Take 30 seconds. Tell us your name. Tell us what company you work for or do you serve, and what is exciting you about this subject tonight? Go for it.
I'm up. Thanks, Vanessa. First of all, thank you for coming to CBiz. We want you to come back often. And so I welcome each and every one of you to CBiz. I want to personally recognize two of my colleagues that are here tonight. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my colleague, Tony Karlik, who is an inspiration to me and his involvement at NIA, and my other colleague, Tim Mataram, who is on a property and casualty. And I wish we had more here tonight, but thank you both for being very supportive. I'm Nancy Mellard. I'm the General Counsel and Executive Vice President for our Benefits and Insurance Services Division. And was there a question? What am I excited about? What I'm excited about is we've heard the question expression, what keeps you up at night? But in my conversations with my two panelists and colleagues up here, we have some really exciting stuff we want to share with you.
Thank you for that.
I'm Kisa Edwards. I work at Farmers Insurance. I've been with Farmers for going on 19 years. Today, my title is Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. I'm most excited about, being able to visit a business that still celebrates awareness months and still appreciates the important work that our DI professionals do and the importance of that for our employees at all the companies that we work at. So I appreciate CBiz for allowing us to be here.
Yes, thank you again for that. And thank you for your introductions. Now, you've just heard who they are. You've heard what they do. Before we look at the survey results, unless they're already on the screen, they are going to, I'm going to challenge our participants in person and virtually. Get your notepad out, whether it's a, pen and a pencil or a piece of paper, or you use your phone, your tablet. They are going to be dropping some real jewels of knowledge and wisdom tonight. So look out. All right, so our survey results.
Left those all in about 45 seconds.
45 seconds. All
Well,
right.
Vanessa, I'll start with what keeps me up.
Okay.
How about that while we're waiting for the results? First of all, Vanessa kind of laughed at me when we were preparing for this, and I said, not much. I'm a really great sleeper, and I really am. I love to sleep, and I could sleep 9 hours every night if given the opportunity. But I do go to bed and wake up with a really simple phrase. And I learned this years ago, and it was in an article I read that said, you can wake up in the morning after you've had a good night's sleep and say, oh, God, morning. Or you can wake up and say, good morning, God. And if you can take a couple of things away, one of my jewels is try saying, good morning, God, instead of, oh, God, morning. But what wakes me up and I get excited about is there will be another crisis today. I don't know what it is. It's a Tony email that says urgent. I need to talk to you before 8:30 in the morning. And it is an urgent. But my question to me is, how am I going to deal with that crisis? Not that there isn't going to be one, but how am I going to approach that? In what way? And that's what helps me to sleep, because I can't deal with a crisis that's going to happen at 8 a.m. in the morning. So get a good night's sleep so I can deal with it well. So that's kind of how I would respond to what keeps me up at night but wakes me up in the morning.
Beautiful perspective.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Kisa, do you want to go ahead and share as well?
Sure. What keeps me up is really the elephant in the room with DEI and what direction we're going with this. Just like Vanessa and I know others that are in this space, you're concerned about how do I not sell out, but how do I keep it going? How do I stay committed? How do I drive an organization passion for staying committed? without putting the organization in a position where we're more vulnerable. So no one has the answers. And I've been up since January 20th trying to figure out like, okay, how do I pivot? How do I say, terms that shouldn't be seen as derogatory, but in another way that says the same thing in the same commitment? Should we even, change or even consider that stuff? And how fast do I really need to move? Because you don't know when your organization's name might get called up as the big spotlight. There is really no good balance on, if you change, if you pivot, if you tweak one thing, if you don't, you're going to make probably somebody upset or mad. So it's a space that being able to live in the uncomfortable and being able to know that at the end of the day, I'm doing work. It's work for our employees. It's to make sure that we still get back to the community. We're still supporting our employees the best way that we can, but in the with risk considered, a way to navigate forward to keep this work alive.
We're in insurance, right? We got to mitigate risk.
Yeah.
Right. We want to mitigate risk because, yes, we want to that's how we make money, by covering others, but we want to mitigate the risk so we don't have to pay out and they don't have to suffer, right? So we want to mitigate that same type of risk in our own house. We don't want our folks, our employees, our associates, colleagues to feel like we're selling out or we're just putting lipstick on a pig. I like pork, so it's okay. But we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing the right way. So, but I'll tell you what keeps me up at night after we look at the survey results. So our participants have said status of my work, safety of my child, the future, stress, temperature, I suppose that means. That's what that means. Uncertainty, inflation, profitability, nothing.
I need that person.
Insomnia, heartburn, a to-do list. So there are plenty of things that keep us up at night.
I also have some of those issues.
Right. We can relate, right?
Yes, definitely.
So I will tell you, I don't have a problem falling asleep. If anything at all keeps me up, it is probably something related to family or managing that kind of thing. Right now, I have on a pair of socks under these Raffies that says faith. So I'll walk by faith, not by sight. So just like you say, God, good morning, God.
Morning, God.
Same thing for me. So I'm not saying that these things are not worthy of concern, but I try not to let anything prioritize my peace over my peace. Okay. And we're going to get to some of that.
Hey,
as
so
well.
Vanessa, I'm going to jump in because I know you're going to ask me, but this a perfect segue and looking at the results when we talk about what are our priorities. And when you said I could wake back up about a child, a grandchild, we're going to get to, but I love to jump in always and talk about everybody wants to talk about balance in your life. And I'm like, that's bull. Can I say that?
Yeah.
It's your company. You work here.
I know, but it's a very reputable organization, association, and I don't want to do anything to screw it up. But let's talk about that for a moment. And I really wish there would never, ever, ever be another article or another discussion about your balance, because it's bullshit. It doesn't exist. But what exists in your life is priorities. And when you prioritize on any given day, on any given hour, whether it is a child, safety of my child, my grandchild, how do I have my daughters and my next generation really be who they want to be? It's about finding your priorities and then integrating those. So if you could replace the word balance, this is my second one I want you to take away. Replace the word balance with integration. And what you say there is, if I can just always know, they'll change, know my priorities, then I integrate them. And my example is so easy. On any given day, I have to be working at 7 a.m. in the morning when otherwise I should probably be carpooling. And so I ask my partner or my friend or my spouse. I am still here at 6 p.m. when, oh crap, I was going to make that game. I was going to make that. It's about, okay, today my priorities are work. And I'm sorry, but they are. And I did miss this or I didn't do that. But tomorrow I will make my priority my partner, my spouse, my child. And so what you're doing is not creating a stress and actually a goal that doesn't exist, which is balance, but you're integrating what's important in your life on a continuum, on a day. I always love, my dad taught me how to use the balance because my dryer used to like shake and walk all over the floor. But that I love that balance where that little bubble, as long as it stays between those two lines, that's all you should ever, ever ask of yourself. Because then you will succeed. You won't fail. But if you try to balance, it ain't going to happen. So I love what you said, and I hope you don't mind that I knew you were going to ask me a question, and I just jumped right in because we had this prior call, and it was like we were finishing each other's sentences. So thanks, Vanessa, for letting me jump in.
You're quite welcome, Nancy. Kisa, you were talking earlier about the role, things that are happening. Is there anything else that is concerning for you that's keeping you up at night that you want to share? Or would you like to say how you are dealing with, how you are balancing, integrating, however you'd like to say it, that concern?
So I'll talk about how I'm addressing the big elephant in the room a little bit. I am leaning a lot on peers across different industries that are doing the same work that I'm doing. It is it's an isolating role, right? You don't really run and tell everything that you're looking at and analyzing or processes and procedures. And so what's really helped me cope with the ever-changing environment is tapping in, checking in on my network, making sure that they are like in a good mental space, because this is rough. Like this, it's a little bit of personal, externally, but then you're at work and you're trying to keep that professional level. In our role, we are here for everyone, no matter what political side you're on, what backgrounds and beliefs. We're here for all of our employees. So, but you can't just talk about that so freely all the time. So it's been really critical to reach out to my network, and then tap into new networks to see how are they pivoting, what are they, what's keeping them up, and what are they concerned about, and comparing my organization to where they are and making sure that we're not overcorrecting. As it will be extremely important not to respond quickly to what's occurring, because a lot of the stuff is being legally challenged. And so, but you also can't do a wait and see, because your name could, the company name could pop up at any moment. But it's a balance and a dance. And I know as long as I'm guided by, at the end of the day, did I do right by my employees? Am I doing right by the organization? And can we still appreciate our cultural differences, our perspectives, and can I still tie that and connect it to our business results and outcomes? That I know I'm safeguarding our DIB commitment.
Okay. So you use your network, you're expanding your network, and that seems to be working well for you in this environment. Okay. All right. And with Nancy had mentioned earlier about integrating. So, for example, I'm a part of one of those networks. They're having a meeting Friday, but I'm going to choose to spend some time with my grandson on Friday instead. But I have to prioritize what's important for me. Each of us, each of you, we have to prioritize what's important for us. What's going to bring that peace, that contentment, that satisfaction without guilt. All right. what's going to work for us. So has there been a time where, you've tried to work out, you've tried to do this and it didn't work out so well for you? You tried to balance or integrate, you tried to leverage your network, you tried, because then let's move away from the topic of what's going on in the environment. We're going to come back to that. But in your professional life, in your personal life, what other things do you find besides the network that may help you? What are some resources, some tools, some practices?
I tap into mentors, past mentors, their experience and knowledge. And I am, maybe just over the years and being in the space, very comfortable of working in the unknown. It's not like something that you have 100 years of data and background that you can go back to. You kind of are paving the way and molding it for your organizations. So it's really leveraging leadership skills, leveraging being courageous and leaning into that discomfort. And then, of course, knowing your guidelines, right? I got a company I got to worry about. I got my employees I got to worry about. And then paving a path forward and being okay with that. But of course, like any other time, we'll go back and check to make sure that decisions or, the way that a response, to a certain issue or concern is the right and appropriate thing. But I think I just leverage my experience to keep moving forward.
Okay. Nancy, anything to add?
Oh, wow. Do you mind if I move into authenticity?
That's where I was going next.
Well, so when Keisha said,
Believe it or not.
that's, I read your mind. Also, she's amazing. But yeah, I think, first of all, my first reaction to your question, which was such a good one, is when you let someone else set your priorities. That's really the answer to so much and by the way, those are words and they're not easy. And I know that. And God knows how many times over the years that I feel like I may have lost my balance, my integration, because someone else tried to set my priorities. But I'm going to go to something that Keisha said that I think is just, you have to stay authentic. And I wrote down 3 words as I was preparing for this, and then realized that I'm going to share with you what they mean. And you used one of them. And that is, you have to have the courage, the confidence, and the compassion. And again, they're really bold, strong words. And it sounds simple to say them, and I know they're not. But I realized believe it or not, researching for sharing this with you, that when you can have both or all 3 of the courage, the confidence, and the compassion for others, then what happens is what that builds. And I did some research that those are not mindsets. What they are an achievement. When you can look at yourself and say, I now have the courage, and you use the word courage, and it's so critically important. But when I have the courage and I have the confidence, but most importantly, the compassion, then everything about my world changes. And so it's not a mindset, but it's actually I have achieved when I am growing in those 3 areas. And that's what I find myself almost asking myself daily, Vanessa, on, am I doing that? And I'll give one example about courage. It's an expression, but I mean, I love it. And that is when you see something, you have to say something. And by God, that takes a lot of courage. But when you do it once, it's like, damn, that felt really good. And you do it again, you do it again. And again, what you're doing is you're achieving that level of courage that you want for yourself. And so that's what I do.
I'm going to add on to that because I think a lot of, more employees should have the courage, but as a employer, we should make sure that there's that psychological safety for employees to speak up. And because I think a lot more employees would share great ideas. It's just that they don't know if they're overstepping, if it's a dumb idea, then they may feel embarrassed about it. But we really should do like our justice as leaders within our organization to make sure that we are building that safe space to allow folks to feel like they can be courageous and speak up and share and challenge. Most importantly, challenge.
And,
Yeah.
and thank them.
I've seen-
Thank them for being
Yeah.
courageous so that they'll do it again versus feeling like they're going to be shut down or not acknowledged or anything like that. How about protecting our peace? How do we, somebody went, whew, who was that? How about protecting, how do we go about navigating our wellness as we're remaining authentic? How do we make sure that when we're being courageous and sharing our opinions, that we're not making ourselves, nervous on the inside? Or how do we go about protecting our peace in this environment or in any type of decisions that we're making professionally in this current environment?
I probably have taken more PTO days that's the beginning of this year than I ever have at the beginning of any year, because usually you start out January and it's go, go, go. We have new objectives and goals, and we're going to achieve those objectives and goals. What I've changed, and it's prioritizing myself and my mental health. It is, I'm going to take a Friday off, and maybe I'm going to add on a Thursday to that. Yes, the work will not move until I come back because I'm a team of one, but I will be better on that Monday because I took that extra day, and I can give you 110%, or, the unbalanced piece of it. I could work longer on that Monday, but if I just kept on pushing through, I just felt like it's going to start to break me down. So there's that guard of, now I'm not afraid to tell my boss I'm out. I'm taking some days, next week. Here's why, and having that open communication with my boss to let her know, like, hey, the world is the world right now. And so I think I'm going to take some days off and come back and hit it hard again.
Good for you. I mean, you have to know what your boundaries, your limits are. So let's talk a little bit about boundaries, if we could. And before we talk about that, let me see how much time we have, because I want to make sure that we give our audience time to ask questions. So we're going to go about 7 or 8 more minutes, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions, even in the chat on those online. Please add any questions or comments you have to the. We want to. Okay. We're going to ask them to put them in the chat.
I love this. She's like, wait a minute.
And then we'll make sure everybody has a chance. All right. But boundaries is it's not a new word. It's not a new topic, but it's taken more value or more precedence lately. We're hearing it more. I'm going to set my boundaries. So how do you all go about setting boundaries? Nancy or Kisa, how do you do that?
I love yours too, because I think I remember you sharing something with us. But here, I have found I am a deeply, for those people that know me, I'm a deeply emotional person. So for me, boundaries equals emotion. And I find myself often throughout a day, and certainly in my relationship with my husband, I am checking my emotion. And it allows me, so what am I feeling? And if I'm feeling happy or angry, checking my emotion allows me to look at that situation or that person and create a boundary based upon my emotion, because I know I'm going to react and I have to be really careful. And whether it's yelling at my husband, which I hardly ever do, but occasionally I do. But more importantly, my emotions, believe it or not, have been the key to keeping my boundaries and knowing what those are. That means I may walk away. That I may confront if I feel like it is necessary for me to do so, but I can do that in a different way than screaming and yelling, which is what I used to be, a big screamer. And I'm not anymore. But I have found boundaries are created when I'm always checking my emotions. So Thank you. Yeah.
So it's not running away from
No.
the situation.
Never.
It's not
Never.
saying to the boss, I don't want to talk to you.
No.
It might be, you might say to the boss or your leader, I don't like to call my boss a boss because
Thank you.
he's my leader.
Oh my God.
I might say to him, could you give me 5 minutes? Could you give me until after lunch for us to reconnect?
I love
because that way I can remain
Because you're staying with your
emotionally
emotions.
intelligent.
I love that.
I can be aware of where I am and not be afraid to say, give me a minute.
Oh, Vanessa, I love that. Love that.
Keisha, any?
So, my boundaries would be to remind my manager, like, hey, those 5 extra projects you have laid on my desk. It's really speaking up for yourself. So if no one advocates for yourself and, capacity wise, you will find yourself overloaded. So, this is something that I've learned as our company has become more lean, more efficient, but at the same time, work is still there. Same amount of work is still there, to advocate for those boundaries. So it is having a conversation about priorities and making sure, yes, all of the work is important, and I agree, but I'm going to get XYZ done by these days, and then I can take on that new work. So let's level set and have those expectations clear. So, we don't have a conversation of a list of 100 things of where are you at on all that? Oh, no. See, Keisha did the first 5, and then I did the next 5. Because you have to, you want to be successful in your career, and you need to have those conversations to make sure that we're on the same page of those expectations.
That's a good food. That's really good food right there. One thing that I tried, and it worked, especially in my previous organization, was, okay, I need to give you these 2 projects. Okay. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say, okay, now I have these other 16. Which of these 5 do you want me to take off so that I can add these 5?
I do exactly that.
There you
yes.
go. You pick. I mean, it's another approach to setting a boundary. You're doing it in a nice way. You're not saying no. You're saying, all right, what would you like me to take off so that we can put these on?
And it's good to remember that organizations are moving. I feel like we're just constantly changing. There is no pause to inhale, exhale, and then you get to finish a nice project and go look for work. That work is waiting for you. It's sitting there. It's probably backlogged for that someone else couldn't do, and now it's coming your way to see if you can help out. So it's always, I don't put that against my manager for asking me to help out. I just remind them of all the other things that we have going on and that we're juggling, so that and sometimes those projects take priority over the thing that I thought was top priority today. So you just have to be flexible and willing to, reprioritize when you have to.
Okay. How do we communicate our boundaries to other people, though? I mean, we might be setting these boundaries and exercising them, and they're like, ooh, you're being like that, or how?
Were you using the B word?
Which one?
Sorry, you just had to ask.
Well, I mean, just saying to a person, here's where I'm at. I need you to understand how this is impacting me. When this happens, I feel like this. I don't want to feel like that. So what I'm going to do is set up some parameters. I need your help with that.
So at Farmers, feedback is a gift, right? Our leaders need feedback. I don't think that my people leader is intentionally trying to overwhelm me with work. So I need to speak up and explain, here's the level of work, and provide that, just as you've been coached probably on your performance before, and not to say it was negatively negative comments on your performance, but they won't get better or become more aware of what's going on in your world if you don't tell them what's happening in your world. They also don't know when random things pop up. That's still a part of your responsibility, but it's extra work. It's another presentation you have to build and create and polish and get ready for. Maybe it's your learning and development partners that you're supporting. So it's communicating that in a professional manner and just making sure that they're in tune with what you're doing. If you do not have regular one-on-ones with your people leader, you can always set those up. And so I have a standing meeting once a week, and she knows exactly what's going on. It could be 30 minutes check-in, but if you're going longer than that, of course they're going to question, well, what are you doing? You must probably have some free time. Here's another thing for you to do.
Good. Very good. Yes.
So I want to read a statement from Evelyn online about protecting your peace and setting those boundaries. And she says, a great friend once asked me, how much is your peace worth? I then resigned from a job I allowed to take my peace.
Way to go, Evelyn
You've
Boswell.
got all the boundaries. And sometimes if you've done all the things, you gotta be willing to.
Oh, there's your time.
Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be willing to walk away. And one of the things that I've learned too is that it doesn't work in every situation. You have to have some discernment and wisdom as to when to say certain things or do certain things. But for me, I've also learned that no is a complete sentence. Like, I don't have to explain, like, no, done. I don't have to justify it. I said, you asked. Like, you come in and ask and say, hey, can you do this or what? No. Move on. You know, it's like we always feel like we have to justify why I said no. Like, no is a complete sentence.
That's very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very powerful.
Vanessa, can I, unless you want at the end, I had a really interesting experience very first thing this morning on my drive in. And I have a call to action for our team here today. But do you want to wait
We
until
want to
the
get
end?
to the questions too, so go ahead.
You want to do the questions first?
Sure. Can we do the questions? Anyone in the room have any questions? Thank you for sharing that comment, Evelyn, and for sharing it also, Kathy. Any questions in the room? Comments? Yeah. Aha moments? Yes.
The question. I'm sorry, I came in late, but
Can you share your name?
my name is Stacy Bobo Lagan. I'm a global relationship leader at Zurich Insurance Company and a member of the NIA chapter here. And I picked up on some language that you're using that informs me that you seem to be evolved. I'm curious what tools, what resources are in your toolbox that have helped you evolve. And the reason I ask the question is, well, I'll share why I asked the question, but I'm just curious, depending on how you respond.
Oh, share first, please.
I set myself up, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, girlfriend.
I don't want to lead the answer, right? But I have found that there have been people who I've tried to emulate because I admire the way in which they engage and lead. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how do I do that? Because I don't know how to do that, or I'm afraid to do that. I'm incapable of doing that. But what I'm finding is that a lot of this is learned behavior. It's practice, it's learning, practicing, testing the waters, being courageous enough to test the waters and be wrong, and having tools in my toolbox to constantly be practicing and using and just kind of evolving, right? And I hate that I'm asking the question and answering the question at the same time, because I don't know what the level of experience or tenure is for people, but that was kind of an aha moment for me. And, you know, at some point I did talk with a career coach, and she's like, do you think people just wake up in the morning and they're natural leaders? And I think that that's so powerful. So I'm curious what tools you have in your toolbox, what's helped you evolve and keep evolving.
Thank you first for telling that. And I'll start with this. And whether this sounds a little egotistical or not, I'm actually launching off of your answer. And that is, I am so tired of having people blame someone else. My tools are primarily mine. And my tools in my toolbox are a lot of failures and a lot of successes. And it's from my failures and successes in my toolbox that I am where I am. And yes, evolution, because look at these wrinkles and look at all this. So I am not like these two beautiful young women sitting right here in the front. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit what's in our toolbox. And if we reached in there more often for the screwdriver and the hammer and whatever else is in my little toolbox at home, and applaud ourselves for both our failures and our successes and continue to use them, that's how we become better. Sure. Are there shoulders that I've stood on? A woman like this, a man like this? Yeah, sure. And I give them all the credit in the world for all that they have given me. But in the end, the gifts they've given me are in my toolbox. And so that would be my answer. That was a beautiful question. I loved your answer to your question too. So thank you.
I would think, I mean, it's a good question. So obviously this isn't prepared, but my toolbox would be staying curious and going back to the courageous piece with my experience. I've bounced around farmers and I've done different things, and I have enough confidence in myself to figure that I can figure it out. I have a sign that hangs in my home office that I bought during the pandemic that's everything's figure outable. And if it ain't through Google or through someone that I know at work or through, whatever, I know I can figure it out. I had the curiosity to dig in deep, to study it, to either practice it, to ask the questions, like, help me out. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm flowing with it. I'm making the stuff up as I go. But that would be a strength, or what I would say that I leverage with any type of different situation. You probably can't believe it, but before the pandemic, I would be too scared to speak in front of this group. I had speech anxiety like out the wazoo. And like other folks probably didn't thrive as much during the pandemic, but webinars helped me out so much to practice, to present in front of different audiences, in front of different levels within the organization. And over time, that practice got me out of that uncomfortable position. And now I would say that it's something that could be turning into a strength. I still have more work to do there, but I think it's just like you set yourself out to achieve something and just keep persevering and pushing yourself to improve.
So your question is more about what tools do we have in our toolkit to help us to where we are today, or to manage?
Say, you answer it the way you want to answer it. Because I think both of those answers were of value to me. I mean, I have a slightly different answer for how I define my toolbox, but it's really is like your source, where you go to get armor up and then face the world. And then when you fall or when you stumble or when you're unsure, where do you turn to get your tools to armor back up and turn back into the world?
Well, my first answer is going to be, just like I talked about these socks I have on. My thing is my faith. So I go there first every day to get wisdom, to get direction, period. Period. I'm not ashamed to say it. So I have my prayer, I have my scripture, and then that's going to lead me to, oh, you need to go talk to so-and-so. I have your personal board of directors, people that you go to for finance, information, whether it's personal or business, people you go to because you might be having an issue with your leader or your boss or your coworker, someone you might want to, someone in your network that you can look at and say, help me with my resume. I'm thinking about making a switch here. On personal wellness, physical trainer. You have to have all these different people in your network and your toolkit that you can leverage or look to. And then be a good listener in your environment. Be a good listener. Be curious. I think you used the word curious. Be a good listener. Pay attention to what's going on in the environment. You don't have to be in everybody's business, but you can pay attention to what's going on in the environment and connect some dots. Ask good questions of your folks in your team or your leader, whoever. Those are just little, I don't want to say little things, but those are some things that I would say are in my toolkit.
I'll add one more thing. It's my motivation also is that the energy of, okay, maybe I failed, or if I'm afraid to fail, what prevents me from failing too bad would be my family. Because that, like, the moment I started at Farmers, I was like, okay, I can become more independent, and then I can help.
It's okay. It's all right. You good.
Number one support.
Yep.
Right, Keish? Yeah,
Mhm.
number one support,
Yep.
without a doubt. Thank you. It was
Thank
an
you for that.
excellent question. Excellent question.
I think it's valuable because what I'm hearing is each of us can have our own toolbox. We have to just identify what it works for us, right? Because each of those stories and sources of confidence come from different places. And it's like we have to find what we need to fill our own toolboxes with. And having conversations like this kind of gives insight into how various people handle or view situations or handle situations, or where you get your source of strength. And if something resonates with me, then I might want to try to emulate something that you're doing and try it for myself. So I think each answer was of value to me. It's just curious about from where you draw your strength.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Any other questions? How about online? Were there anything in the chat?
I'll ask a question if you don't mind. So I'm Tim Matterum. I work at CBiz. I feel like we're in a period of time where we're being ripped apart in some ways, whether it's by media or politics or other things like that, right? And I don't want to make this about politics or media or anything, but CIAB, WSIA, NIA seem to have like a really important role in our industry right now to keep the me a we. So is this something that's being discussed at those levels at all?
I'll start. Yeah. I'll start. So for a little bit more background for me, almost 18 years ago now, our president and CEO and chairman of the board asked me to build our women's program. Maybe that's one of the reasons I'm here, but I was the national leader for about 12 years, and I'm incredibly proud of our women's program within CBiz. I'd love to, at any given time, talk with you more about our successes and failures with that. But CBiz personally is still very committed to our ERGs. CBiz Women's Advantage was the first, but we now have 3. So any more information on that? So I am on our diversity, equity, and inclusion task force that's talking about. And we are very committed to our mission, and we are not changing it. That doesn't mean we may change the words, but that's okay. The words are one thing, our actions are something very different. With the CIAB, the Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers, the association, that's our association in Washington, D.C. I am still very fortunate to be very involved in it. And it also has a DE&I advisory committee, and I am on that also. And we are not changing. In fact, in addition to my wonderful experiences at a leadership level, I'm now treasurer of the foundation board, the council foundation board, and they are committed to not only continuing the DE&I mission, but they are continuing to actually put money where our focus and our mission are. So I said the other day on a CBiz DE&I task force meeting, I said there was a time where probably they thought the insurance industry didn't look like this. We do now, and we're very proud of it. And we have a long ways to go because I sit in too many meetings, Tim. I'm sorry, but with a lot of white men. But we have a long ways to go, but we're still there. And if I can just stay with your question, but this is my call to action. And I have a really, really quick story. I'm National Public Radio. It's the only radio station in my car. I think it's probably stuck there forever. When I drive in and I drive home. I drove in this morning and there was a report. I don't know if anybody else is a National Public Radio fan. Okay, if you happen to be driving this morning, they did a report on the governmental agencies that are currently now like women people of color, it's all white men, whether it's the Army, whether it's one of the military, whatever it might be, that if you go on the website or different things, it's basically all been washed, for the lack of a better word. There's probably a far better word. But in any event, I was listening to the report and I was thinking about this evening, and I was thinking about the three of us being up here and what can we share. And I always like to leave with a call to action. And here's our call to action. What do we do about that? I really don't think we can do anything about that. But to go further with Tim's question, here's what I think our call to action is. We have to continue to be visible. And that means that we have to increase the membership of NIA. We have to increase the leadership or the membership of these associations that can be visible. And our visibility alone is such an incredibly strong statement about what we believe in, both as CBIZ and what we believe in as individuals and as a community. And so my call to action to you is we cannot take that step backwards. We cannot take that step sideways. We have, as people that believe this, believe not that it's just a business case, not to believe that it's just my own personal, but we have to believe this. And one of our most powerful ways is to be visible. So if I have a call to action to all of you at the end, it's like we have to continue to be visible because this is the right thing. I hope that answers your question, Tim, in part.
I have one for you. I know we're probably out of time, but here's my call to action. You mentioned CIAB and WSIA and NIA. So our two organizations are partnering.
Yes, they are.
We did it last year. We're doing it again this summer. We are going to be presenting and offering a cohort, learning cohorts. They used to be called DEI learning cohorts. They will no longer be called that. Learning cohorts to understand, it's going to be 6 sessions. They're going to be 90 minutes each session. They're going to start in middle of May. I will do my best to send out the announcement to NIA, this group at least. The conversations are things that not only does this audience need to hear, what's your name?
Tim.
But you need to be a part of the audience, and your people who look like you need to be a part of that audience. These are powerful conversations about centering voices and identities in the workplace, but not listening to the other voices and needs in the workplace that need to be heard. It's about understanding what the D, the E, and the I really are about, or what we think they're about versus what it's really about. So you're gonna get the 6 sessions again, 90 minutes a session over a couple of months. They're facilitated by 2 dynamic, wonderful facilitators. I can't wait. I can't wait. We presented it to our foundation board in last summer, and they said at the time, we need to get this out to more leaders, more executives, more of the mass. So we're going to hear more about that. I'll share the announcement with you all.
Yeah. Tim, thanks for walking the talk.
Anything? Any call to action from you?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Thank you for inviting us and having this conversation. I hope it met the need. Thank you, Kisa. Thank you, Nancy,
Vanessa.
for your transparency, and turn it back over.